So you guys are here because you want to learn about old style rider deck spindles? You're in the right place. So step one is, why do you want to rebuild your spindles? Well, there can be a couple different reasons. It can be like this one, and the bearings can be totally lock solid. This one here, this isn't a real good illustration of it, but that may actually be a good spindle. So, anyhow, let's go over here to a deck. And I think, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. My tripod's out in my truck. I don't feel like going and getting it, but see the amount of play this has. I'm trying to hold the camera steady, but I think you guys can hear it clunking, but basically, you get a lot of play to them. That one there has a good 1/4 inch. And I think this deck here may be a little bit worse. This deck is a little bit older than this deck. But basically both of them have spindles in them that have a lot of play. So, in short, we're going to have to press these apart and put new bearings in. And I'll show you what the bearings will look like. Okay, so basically, these spindles have 2 bearings in them, and the upper bearing and the lower bearings are way and totally different. So the upper bearing, and this is an old bearing that I've pressed out of one. For the most part, a lot of your trouble is going to be in the needle bearings, but I just change them anyhow. Regardless, basically, this upper ball bearing here goes on the top, and I mean, I really don't have a whole lot else to say about that. You can get rubber sealed ones or metal sealed. Doesn't really matter. The thing with the metal seals is you just have to grease it a little more often because it's easier for moisture to get into them. And the lower bearings, the needle bearings, just have a tendency to wear, and there's a lot smaller bearing surfaces on here. And obviously needle bearing just tends to wear out a little quicker. I don't know why. Needle bearings is what they wanted to do, but that's what they did. So these are bearings I'm using on here. I was looking around for an actual number, but looks like a Kaio and then a B-1412. I believe you can pause it there and look at it. Is the needle bearings. And this is the bearings I am using for the upper bearings. Looks like it's the same as a Bolin's 118 5828 or an Aaron's, I believe that's a 0511 2000 is what that looks like. So, but anyhow, these were bought off of eBay. Nothing super special. So, anyhow, regardless, I'm gonna go over to the press here and we'll press one apart. I do not have my tripod back here in the shop, so you guys will have to deal with the old Steadihand camera. And I kind of want to get 3 of these rebuilt and ready to go. And then basically I'm just going to swap spindles out of a deck and keep going. At least that's the idea. You know how that goes. Okay, first step here. I'm going to try and press the shaft down through because it's a whole lot easier to get something on this ball bearing than it is the needle bearing in the bottom. And this is an extremely rusty spindle. Or I may just end up pressing the shaft out, I don't know. You can do this with a hammer and a punch. I'm going to take the nut off the top of this. If I already didn't screw up, I may have. Darn it. So, I took the nut off and the shaft fell right out, so I didn't catch it on camera. Per usual. But something you definitely want to look at, and especially where the needle bearings ride, is the shaft has to be nice and smooth. And this shaft here, if you guys can see it, there is a shoulder worn there and there. So basically that shaft there is pretty much junk. So that may be a catch-22 we run into here. But the housing's good. At least so far, anyhow. So, let me... I think I should have pressed the shaft up through, because if I press the shaft up through, then the ball bearing would go out of there. Pretty sure. Yes. Yep. Yep. Hindsight's always 20/20, guys. Remember that. So, if we press this like that, which I'll have to drop the press down to do. That ain't gonna help me. So, put the shaft in the correct way. Yeah. Last time I tore one of these apart was actually weeks ago when I rebuilt this other one here, and the shaft was good in that one. Okay. Hold on, let me get set back up here and bring you guys back. So after tapping that back in there, I realized this upper bearing is going to come right out. So there's that. Check out the old dried up grease in this thing. Wow. You can see some of it there. I just got the ball bearings to turn on that shaft. Not worth putting back together though. Okay. Anyhow. So now that I know this shaft is junk, once you know it's junk, then you're not too scared to hammer on it or nothing. Okay. There's grease in here, so I'm wondering if this thing will come right apart. Well, probably gonna be easier just to throw it back in the press and deal with it. Now I got my hands greasy. Okay. I know I don't have very good light over here, but I got a deep well 11/16 socket in there, and that is about the perfect size to press that bearing out. Well, it just got tight there. Okay, I see why. Pretty sure I hit the block underneath of it. Okay, let's try that again. Yep. And there they go. So at this point, we're ready to install the new bearings. Socket went there, of course the piece I want. You think I would clean up around here so it'd be easy to do this. Now you guys saw that needle bearing went right there, didn't it? Right here. It don't look terrible, but it's got old grease and stuff in it that's caked on it good. So yeah. Now just install the new bearings, which, like taking the old bearings out, is relatively simple. It's a good housing. So pretty much what I have found, it wouldn't be a bad idea, and I may do this off camera and pause right here, is clean all the old grease out so that way it don't get into new bearings. So hold on a minute there, fellas. Okay, now gotta get the bearing to start squarely, which I just kind of set it in there off camera and got it started. And my shop press is actually the perfect size to go right down in these spindles, and I can just push this bearing down in here flush, which it'll make a liar out of me and be stuck on there. Yep. Shouldn't have done that. I should have used an old bearing as a spacer. Okay. Most unprofessional job on YouTube, go. Okay, you guys just have to take my word for it, but that come right down off the press. No problemo. So, the next thing is the upper bearing. Pretty sure I had this washer out here as a spacer. Yep. Like I said, I put one of these together about a month ago. And I meant to do a video then and never did, and life happened, I got sidetracked. Now I kind of want these decks together so I can use some of my other tractors. That's all there is to changing the bearings in these. Now, for this particular housing, I'm going to have to dig around and find a good shaft, since this shaft here is kind of boogered. So, that's what I'm going to do, because right here's three spindles. There is 6 on these decks. The ones that are good, I'm going to leave alone and just grease them up really good. But from what I remember, I believe there's at least 2 bad on each one. I have a whole milk crate full of them over there, so dig around, see if I can't find one that's at least a better shaft than that one, and we'll go from there. Kind of forgot I had this. This looks like a good spindle here. Is probably why I saved it, or had it sitting out here. Anyhow, back to the pile of misery. Because there's no shaft in that one. Shaft in that one. Okay, keep looking because I think. See, here's a blade cradle. It's missing the keyway though. That's also gonna be a problem that I didn't think about. This one here. Nope. See, there's a shoulder in that one. So technically that one's junk, but that would have the keyway and a nut. Keep that handy. I'm looking at getting a lathe, by the way, guys, because then I could turn a lot of parts like this and put like a speedy sleeve on them, or just whip something up. I think that's actually a good shaft. No, I'm thinking about something. Some other shafts I were messing with were fine thread, weren't they? These are coarse thread? I may have just learned something else. Well, let me move all these gearboxes and see if I can't find something. Maybe they're more coarse thread, I don't know. Okay, there is definitely fine thread versus coarse thread. Interesting, very interesting, Mr. Bond. And also, this seems like a good spindle too. So I'm still looking for a fine thread shaft. This is out of one of these gearboxes. Probably this one. That's the bottom's broke out of. I actually have some keyed pulleys and stuff in here. I got this with one of them lots of stuff from 2 years ago. It actually, problem was they had all this stuff all ended up in a shed that the roof leaked, and then none of the stuff ended up being any good. That looks like a good shaft there. It's gonna need some sandpaper work, but it's a good shaft. It's even got the keyways in it. So that'll be good for that. Awesome. Score 1 for Steve. See? You people laugh at me for having spare parts. It's always good. Guess what? I'd have to go to eBay and wait months to get stuff like that. What else do I got good down in here? A whole bunch of these. What is this? Oh, okay. Spacers. Regular pulleys. And the guy's dad that I got all this stuff from, which would have been the 67 430 and the commercial 12 haul, which commercial 12 I actually sold last year, and I've kept the 67 430, and I actually have a bunch of 67 424s now. I have 2 of them. So, without further ado, I guess I'm going to put this shaft in that spindle that I just rebuilt on camera, and I guess I'm gonna unless the first one I rebuilt has a coarse thread shaft in it. Because do the coarse thread shafts, are they tapered? No, they're straight shafts. So I think everything will interchange. The nuts are just different, near as I can tell. Never thought this would be this complicated, guys, I'll be honest. Figured the old style spindles were the old style spindles, but I'm wrong. And I didn't even realize it till I was on video talking about it here, because guess what? I got a coarse thread one already rebuilt, and I was working on a fine spline. Spline, I did it again. Fine thread one. Fine threaded shaft. So, I guess maybe what I ought to do is I probably ought to pull the spindle covers on these decks and see what they have, and maybe I'll copy them. I guess I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to tell from below. These look like they have coarse thread, or at least this. I'm gonna have to take the nuts off and look, because that one looks like fine thread. I almost said spline again. This looks like coarse thread to me, but there's not enough sticking out to see. And this one definitely looks like coarse thread, because it looks like they made the threaded part longer. It's probably one of them deals. They decided that more threads holding was a better idea, you know. So, okay, I may pick this up tomorrow night. Here it is 8:30. You know, I just realized something. There is no keyway in these shafts for these blade cradles, so completely ignore me the whole way through this video. Why I don't know. I'm an idiot. What are you gonna do? Anyhow, figured that out. So get this shaft put in here, and like I said, I'm gonna call it a night, because apparently I'm incapable of realizing that anyhow. So I'll get this keyway out of the shaft, and I'll just hopefully drop it in there by hand. And one freshly rebuilt spindle ready to go on a deck. And legit, I can't assemble it any further until I put it in the deck. Now I'll probably shoot some grease in it and make sure I get some grease flowing everywhere before I stick it in there, like I did that one, and you guys can see the greasy mess I got going on. But you can't really fully assemble it till you bolt it in the deck and you put the top pulley on. I mean, you could put a pulley on it out here, but that kind of negates the you know, assemble it right, because we assemble it twice deal. Yeah, so anyhow, hopefully tomorrow night here I'll get to yanking some spindles out, and we'll change them for some much better ones, because I found some spindles while I was playing around that I'm debating about chancing not, and I'll save the bearings for my really toasted ones, or etc., because I have more old style decks floating around, trust me. So anyhow, guys, that's going to be it for Steve on this one, and next time, hopefully, we'll put him in one of these two decks, if not both of them. So, later, guys. You know, I was just realizing to change the center deck spindle, I'm going to have to take the carriages off of these two. Darn it. It's never simple, guys. It's never simple. Okay. Guess if that's what I'm going to have to do, it's what I'm going to have to do. I was getting the covers off of these because basically I have to start from the top anyhow and get the I have to get the pulleys off in order to drop the spindles out, or to even just change the bearings and the one that are in them. So, step one, I've got the spindle covers off of this deck, and one that fought me, so I just ripped the plastic insert out of there, and I don't think I can get a cage nut in there. I don't think. Might look at that, but I don't know. I think I've looked into that before, and they actually hang down below the deck, if I'm not mistaken. So, anyhow, so gonna do that, and this one here is going to be the exact same way. It's the old style carrier, so I'm going to flip this deck around so it's out, and then go from there. I guess I'm going to plug the camera in since it's already 1 bar down on battery. This is my brand new camera too. It's only it's probably a month old, but I bet you I only recorded maybe a half hour worth of footage with it. This is the most recording I've done with it right here, I think. Anyhow, back to it. Alrighty, guys, it's actually been, let's see, I believe Wednesday night was the last night I was out here working on this, and I wasn't feeling so hot then. I went home early from work Thursday, was sick Friday. I tried to go down to National Pike yesterday. I made about an hour and a half, and got back in the truck and came home. Now, of course, about halfway home I was feeling better, but I got home and slept from about 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock this morning, and now I'm feeling fairly good. Not perfect, just basically feeling like got over something, but anyhow, so short version of a long story. It's been Thursday, Friday, Saturday, today's Sunday. It's been 4 days since I worked on this. I did get the spindles in this thing that night. The only thing I had left to do was to put the belt on, and I didn't do it that night. I figured, oh, I'll get it the next night. Well, yeah. The next night turned into a couple nights real quick, so come out this morning, got the belt on it, and other than the belt covers and sitting it down, which I don't have my OSHA approved shoes on, so I'll let it stand there for now, and we'll go from there later, and we'll throw it on a tractor and see what it does, hopefully. I'm trying not to push my luck too hard. I think you guys know what I mean. Oh, and I was able to change the center spindle without taking the carriage off. You just basically have to take the nut loose with a wrench. Or, hindsight, I could probably take about right here. So, excuse me, if you take the drive shaft off and probably cut a hole in there with a hole saw, you could change it real easy. With an impact, would be awesome, but hey, you know, this is what it is. But anyhow, back to you guys whenever we get it on tracker.